To explain how health insurance works, I have a relatively overly simplified example. So let's say that you are put into a room with 99 other people. So there's 100 people in a room. Okay. At the front of that room, there is a bag, and it has ping pong balls in it. All right, it has 100 ping pong balls to be exact. So out of those 100 ping pong balls, all right, which I have over here, one of those ping pong balls has a giant X on it. 99 are plain, they're blank, they have nothing. Now, what happens is everybody has to, you don't have a choice, okay? You have to go up and everybody has to pull out a ping pong ball. If you pull out the ping pong ball that has the X on it, you have to pay $10,000. Okay. Not a fun game. But if you pull out nothing, you don't have to pay anything. Okay. So for the 99 people that pull out the ping pong ball with nothing, they don't have to pay anything. But for the one person that has to pay, or that pulls the ping pong ball with the X, that person has to pay $10,000. So no one can see it. Nobody has an advantage. You know, they're all just plain ping pong balls. You can't see anything. And so everybody has a 1 in 100 chance of owing $10,000. The expected value of that, which is what would happen if you played this game 5 billion times, the expected value is 100, which means that on average you would have to pay $100 every time, which is 1%, 1 over 100 times 10,000. Okay, so let's look at that. So let's say we have our example here. So we have our 100 people. Each person has a 1% chance of having to pay $100. Or sorry, it has a 1% chance of having to pay $10,000. So the expected value for every person, because they have the same exact risk, is going to be $100. So let's go through and see what happens. And so we go through, and Aaliyah pulls out the ping pong ball. Nothing on it. Abigail, ping pong ball. Nothing on it. Adeline, ping pong ball. Nothing on it. And by the way, I did like a search of the top 100 baby names, something like that. So Addison pulls out ping pong ball. Uh-oh. Addison got the X. So Addison, because she pulled out the X, right, she has to pay $10,000. So for Addison, her overall money level went down by 10,000. Right. And for her, yeah, that's bad. Everyone else, whatever. They didn't lose anything. They're no worse off. Let's say, however, Connor got the X. So now Connor had to pay 10,000 and is now down 10,000. So what does this mean? This means that everybody has that 1% risk of losing $10,000. Now, for the 99 who nothing happens, that's fine. But for the one person that pulls out the X, financially, that can cause some serious issues. Right? Having to pay that large bill can be a pretty big problem. So, what do we do? No one wants to have to pay that. That's having a 1% chance of having a financially, I wouldn't say crippling with 10,000, but financially a big financial setback. That 1% chance, that can be more than a lot of people can really stomach. Okay. So this is where insurance comes in. Let's say instead of, let's say everyone gets together and they say, all right, you know what? None of us want to pay that that amount. All right, none of us want to pay $10,000. However, we can all live with losing 100. So if you take the total amount that would have to get paid, which is 10,000, divided by 100 people, all right, it's an average of $100 per person. So let's say then that everybody, all 100 people, took $100 and paid it in. Okay, they paid what their expected value was. Right. And so when you take that, there's now $10,000 in there. Okay, so there's $10,000 in the pot. So now we go through and we pay the game. Okay, play the game. And so when we go through, let's say that, let's say Henry. Henry pulled the X this time. And let me fix this. And there we go. So at this point, Henry had to pay $10,000. And so on top of the $100 he already paid for went into that big pot of money, he also had to pay $10,000 because he pulled the X. And so he's now down $10,001. But with the agreement of that pot of money, okay, whoever pulled the X, that money was going to go to that person. Okay, because that person, everyone paid in, they're all basically, bought out, said, look, we'll take care of it. And so that $10,000 money, which everyone paid into that pot of money to, cover the person who pulled it, is now getting paid to Henry. So now Henry, so yes, Henry pulled the X, and so he had to pay the $10,000, but he's also getting $10,000 in order to pay for it. So Henry paid 100 for the paid 100 into the pot, had to pay 10,000 because he pulled the X, but he got back 10,000. Okay. And so overall he's down $100. All right, well, what about everyone else? Harper, for example, paid $100 into the pot, didn't pull the X, so didn't have to pay anything, but didn't get anything in return. So Harper is also down $100. And so what has happened here was basically, it was made out to be so that everybody who had to do this, who had to play this game, they are all equally as bad off. Okay. Everyone is always equally as bad off. Okay. This is what insurance is. So what insurance is, and what insurance companies do, is they collect money from people who want to be covered under the plan. And if they get injured or sick and they have a medical bill, they will help to pay them. Right. Medical bills can be very, very high. They can be $10, $20, $100, $200,000, which can be financially crippling. Right. It can force you to go into bankruptcy. And so with health insurance, what it does is everyone that's in that health insurance pool, they pay money. They pay premiums. Okay. So if we look here, and we're talking about premiums, the premium here was $100. That is what is called fair premium. Okay. So the fair premium is what an insurance company would have to collect to exactly cover what they're paying out. Okay. So if the fair premium would be, if they're going to pay out $100,000, they need to collect $100,000 divided by the number of people that they're covering. Okay. But when it comes to, now while this case may have worked here in this example, in reality when it comes to health insurance, that's not the case. In reality, insurance companies don't pay fair premiums, or they don't charge fair premiums. Okay? They charge an amount on top of what they pay out. What they charge is an actual premium. And so the actual premium is the amount that the insurance company charges and you pay. So if you take, the actual premium, all right, which is what they actually charge, and the fair premium, which is the amount that they would need to charge in order to cover it, what you get is what is called the loading factor. So here, $100 is the fair premium. All right, the active premium may have been, let's say, $110. And so the loading factor is the difference. It's what the insurance company charges on top of their fair premium. Now that money is going to go towards administrative costs. It's going to go towards paying employees. And it's also going to go to profits. So this is, in a nutshell, how insurance works. And if we look at this here, so why do we need insurance? So when it comes down to it, methods for covering for risk. What this is, it's medical bills can be expensive. They can be very, very expensive. So how do you protect yourself? How do you cover for that risk of getting sick or injured and having that large medical expense? Well, you can do savings, but that can be tough because it's tough to save up $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000. Family and friends and charity, it's also okay, but it's really tough to count on that. Now, what I just described was private market insurance contract. All right, that's where you bring a bunch of people together in a pool, and you have them basically pool their money to where if something happens, they're covered. Okay. Now that's private market insurance. The other type is social insurance, and that's really the government coming in, doing Medicare and Medicaid, and collecting money via taxes and paying for people who really cannot afford health care. And that's the goal of it. So these are all the methods of covering for that risk. Now, all of them have, it reduced the effects of the lost. Savings is shifting consumption in between periods. So basically you're not spending money later, you're spending it now, or vice versa. Family, friends, and charity, sharing between people. And the insurance contracts is trading between what we call possible states of the world. And states of the world in this case are you either get sick or you don't. All right. In the ping pong ball example, it's do you pull out the ping pong ball or you don't. Okay. And so insurance contracts say, in the one state of the world, you pick the ping pong ball DX, and you get paid to cover those costs. And the other state of the world, you don't, so you don't get anything. But there are, fallbacks to all those methods. But in general, that's, most people need insurance because of those large costs. And insurance contracts are the way to kind of cover and to protect against them.